For every all-powerful Star Wars character, there is one who can't survive for more than a few seconds on screen, the most notorious of which is Coleman Trebor. Now before we look at the embarrassing way this Jedi was killed in Attack of the Clones, we first have to understand what canon and legends have to say about him. Coleman actually wasn't known for his combat abilities, but was one of the most important members of the Jedi Council because he was considered the best diplomat in the Order. Despite not being as great of a warrior as someone like Mace Windu, he almost ended an entire war by himself. Think about it. If Coleman had killed Dooku here, the Separatist movement would have lost its figurehead, and the CIS probably would have completely fallen apart. However, Coleman's lack of skill as a warrior was made apparent when he was taken out in a grand total of 3 seconds after trying to take out Dooku. While Jango Fett notoriously killed many Jedi, even taking out a Padawan with his bare hands, this was a Jedi Master we are talking about, and he couldn't even deflect 5 blaster bolts. But there's more. The sad thing is that even if Jango was there, he most likely would have been killed by Dooku within a matter of seconds as well. The same cannot be said for Anakin Skywalker, who not only killed Dooku, chopping off his hands and head, but also had the highest midichlorian count of any Jedi out there with 20,000. But actions speak louder than words. While the movies show us a lot about Anakin that is impressive, like him winning a pod race at the age of 9, despite no other humans, even adults, having the reflexes to compete in the race. But in the comics and books, we find out what made him the best general during the Clone Wars and what made him so feared as Darth Vader. One time during the Clone Wars, Anakin reportedly saved Captain Rex and his clones by lifting up an entire AT-TE and crushing an army of battle droids with it. I mean, these walkers weigh more than 100 tons. Even crazier is in the novel Labyrinth of Evil, when Anakin and Obi-Wan face off against Dooku at the Lamerge Powers Plasma facility on Coruscant. Anakin collapsed a 90-meter ceiling with just his voice. After entering the control room, Anakin yelled out, "Dooku!" which collapsed the entire ceiling, nearly crushing the Sith Lord just from the sheer raw power Anakin released here. This means Anakin can not only lift as much as Master Yoda, but also had dark side strength on a similar level to Darth Sidious in Revenge of the Sith. But we will talk about Palpatine more later. As Darth Vader, his force power only grew stronger. He not only held a large chunk of the ocean at Fortress Inquisitorius on Nur in Jedi Fallen Order, but also force-choked Admiral Ozzel from over a mile away. Well, I guess if they were on the same Star Destroyer, it wasn't that far, but you get the point. It was a pretty big distance. However, our next character is one who wishes he was Darth Vader, but definitely isn't. On paper, Kylo had everything: Skywalker blood, Skywalker training, and access to both Jedi and Sith teachings. Yet, in the films, his win record is questionable. He was beaten by Rey twice, but on the other hand, held his own against a full room of Praetorian guards. Well, Grogu kinda did the same thing with the wave of his hand in The Mandalorian, so either Kylo is that weak or Grogu deserves to be on this list as well. But Kylo's most notable ability was probably telekinesis, with him able to stop blaster bolts and even full humans in place. But this is nothing compared to his uncle Luke, who was even more powerful in Legends than in canon. But what are Luke's greatest achievements in Legends? Well, in the courtship of Princess Leia, that being a book, Luke rescues Han Solo from Dathomir by piloting the Millennium Falcon from across the galaxy. Not only did he remotely fly the ship, but he even used the turrets with perfect accuracy. However, even this achievement is nothing compared to the next two I'm showing you. The first is when he manipulated a black hole to defeat the Yuuzhan Vong, who had organic weapons and even organic ships that generated black holes for shields, which they used when invading the galaxy. In one confrontation between Luke and the Vong, he manipulated their own black holes to destroy their ships. Even crazier is when Abeloth, a Force god who was the mother alongside the father, son, and daughter from Mortis, was defeated by Luke when he teamed up with the Sith Lord Darth Krayt. Now back to the weaker side, we have Jocasta Nu. She was the Jedi Temple librarian, which sounds harmless until you realize how important her job was. She knew the location of every Jedi and every Force artifact, but in terms of combat, yeah, not her strong suit. After Order 66, she tried to protect Jedi knowledge from Darth Vader himself, and let's just say it ended about how you'd expect when a librarian faces the Dark Lord of the Sith. While she did survive the initial Jedi Purge, this event showed that she wasn't a very impressive warrior. If you can remember earlier, we talked about how Darth Vader force-choked an officer from across a Star Destroyer. Well, Palpatine, our next character, did the same thing to Count Dooku, but from across the galaxy. But the crazy thing about Palpatine was that he was so powerful with the Force that he didn't even need a lightsaber. However, when using them, he was still unstoppable, being able to take on Darth Maul and Savage Opress at the same time and defeating them both. He also defeated and killed 3 Jedi Masters in a matter of seconds and fought Yoda to a stalemate. However, what achievements does Palpatine have in lore? After digging through countless videos and Wikipedia pages, I personally found this one the most impressive. We've all seen Force lightning used in Star Wars before, but Palpatine took it to another level. His Force lightning was so intense that he could use it to turn his enemies into shriveled husks in a matter of seconds. But another shocking fact is that he used Force speed, which we see Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan using in The Phantom Menace in his dueling, which made it impossible to react to unless you were absolutely the best of the best. In Legends, Palpatine used pyrokinesis, which allowed him to generate fire from existing material in the room. In 52 BBY, he turned a gentle fireplace into a raging inferno, which he used to burn Senator Pax's team alive, who had a falling out with Plagueis, the Master of Sidious, who had a public persona. This led to Sidious murdering him. Now, one of the least impressive Force users has gotta be the 8th brother. This Inquisitor was sent to capture or kill Darth Maul in Star Wars Rebels, which sounds like a suicide mission already, and instead of a climactic duel, he runs away. His helicopter lightsaber malfunctions and he plummets to his death. Not exactly the legacy you want as a dark side enforcer. But welcome back to the self-improvement advice of this video. Today we're actually looking at John 14:12 in the Bible, and if that's not your kind of thing, then you can skip back to the video at this time right here. Now, John 14:12 actually says, "Very truly I tell you, the one who believes in me," that being Jesus, "will also do the works that I do, and in fact will do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father." So what I took from this is that I feel like a lot of people are very afraid to do, big, significant things in their life, because you kind of have that mentality of, well, Jesus had the true mission, so do I really need to do anything? But don't be afraid if you feel God is calling you to something and, it's a good, righteous cause. Like, don't be like, oh, God's calling me to become a millionaire. Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. But, if he's calling you to do some sort of work and you really think it's true and it feels like that's what God is saying to you, then don't be afraid to go on that path, because literally the Bible is saying right here, Jesus is saying here that he is going to the Father. He is now in heaven, and now the sort of mission of spreading the gospel continues with us. So yeah, just don't be afraid to go on a path if you think God is calling you to do it. And we all have a significant part to play in the spreading of the gospel if we are chosen. But yeah, let's get back to the video. But the character that taught Luke on Dagobah, the character that was equal to Sidious, and the only character that could have defeated Nightfall Vader on Mustafar other than Obi-Wan is Grand Master Yoda. But we never even saw Yoda at his peak. Here are some Force powers Yoda possessed that even hardcore fans don't know about. One is Alter Environment, which, unlike telekinesis, allowed Force users to not only move objects, but the world around them as well. This means plants, water, and in Yoda's case, even oxygen, being able to keep a pocket of oxygen inside a lift when exposed to the vacuum of space in the novel Yoda Dark Rendezvous. But if you thought Anakin moving the AT-TE earlier was impressive, you might be shocked by the time Yoda moved entire droid transport ships during the Battle of Coruscant. But one comparison that truly shows how powerful Yoda is are droidicas.
Okay.
You see, while Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan had to run away at the sight of 2 droidicas, as did Anakin and Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith, Yoda was able to lift up hundreds of these droids at this same battle to stop the army from fully invading the planet. But with Master Yoda himself out of the way, that concludes our list of the most weak and most powerful Star Wars characters. Let me know if I should cover the most weak and powerful Sith Lords next, including Legends characters like Darth Nihilus. And if you want to know who the most hated Star Wars actors are, as well as the most beloved, then click this video on screen right now.
Do it.